Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Rents dropped 40% in one market. They could drop 40% in my market as well. This is a Tuesday live stream. Unless you're watching this as a short video, that means I edited it out and released it for those people who would never click on a 2-hour video. But I want to talk about this being a 3-stage video. The first is the market where it dropped 40%, why it dropped 40%. The second is why my market, where I invest, is at risk of doing the same thing. And then the third, the most important part of this video, is how I'm preparing for that and how you might want to prepare for it too. When it comes to setting rents, almost everyone says, if they're educated in real estate, area average rents set rents, not your expenses. If your expenses set rents, a paid off property would rent for a different amount than a property with a mortgage because they have different expenses. But most tenants don't even know if you have a mortgage or not. Area rents tell the tenants what they should pay, and what tenants should pay is what you're going to be able to charge for your rents. So let me bring up the first market to show you an actual market where rents dropped 40% recently and how mine's set to do the same. So this is actual data. What's happened in this market is from in the last like 2 years, rents dropped to where they were 20 years ago. That's how much rent increase was destroyed in 2 years. Now, this is a great thing for tenants. This is how the market should be. The supply meets the demand at a point where people are willing to pay and people are willing to rent. But in Argentina, over the last 18 years, up until 2 years ago, they had a rent control policy. Now, what rent control does is it limits supply. Investors don't want to spend money building places they might not be able to sell because landlords aren't going to buy the place that was built if we can't kick a tenant out because of legislation. If we can't raise rents when property taxes or insurance goes up, or there's some other expense, some fee that's added on to our expenses, the cost of labor, the cost of materials, all the things it takes to maintain and manage a rental property. If we can't make large adjustments when there's a black swan event, why own a rental there? So the demand goes away to build. What happens as rent control gets stricter and impacts more people is landlords will leave places empty. They just won't rent them out. Or they'll turn them into a short-term rental because that's not impacted by rent control because it's not a tenant, it's somebody staying there short term. And yeah, municipalities and hotel chains tend to fight that a lot. So some places it's going away. Other landlords will just sell the property and it's no longer a rental, so it goes to a homeowner. That doesn't bring rents down. What happens is rents are forced to go up every time that so if rent control says you can do a 5% increase or a 10% increase every year, that's what you have to do since you can't make that larger increase. So then with that rent, this is the door. That rent increase happens every time that you renew your lease. Or you kick the tenant out and you say, I'm going to rehab the unit. I'm going to move in. I'm going to sell the unit. You fix it up and you rent it out for new amounts, significantly higher than that 5 or 10% increase that you thought you were going to do. And then in 2023, regime change, political winds shifted. Rent control was rescinded in 2023. Well, look what happened to rents. 40% drop, 20 years of gains lost. The risk to the landlords in the 18 years from 2005 to 2023 was they let rents grow, making so much money as their profit increased because rent control forced them to go up with expenses. They thought my equity's gone up. It's so expensive to rent, making more people want to buy, which pushes up the cost of houses. So housing costs more because rents were more, because less people would want to rent. They'd want to go buy. More demand on the buy side of buying, of owning, means those prices went up. Property values went up. So landlords benefited from rent control. Rents went up, property values went up. And a lot of dumb landlords pulled out equity. That's what everybody calls it. I pulled out equity. I had money sitting in my property. No, you had the ability to add debt to an existing asset. So the tards, the dumb landlords, the dumb owners thought, I've got all this equity. It's not making me any money. Rent control's making me stupid rich. Let me get stupider rich by being stupid. Too many times to use that word in one sentence. It's lost all meaning. So then they pull out all this equity, which means they added debt to their assets. They kept their margins thin and they bought more properties because you can recycle your capital. Super smart, right? You have a bigger portfolio. And then rents dropped 40%, but because you've been adding debt to your assets, you no longer can afford it. So a lot of them are losing their properties. So now, how things changed in my market, as I have seen recently in the last couple of years, I am getting stupid rich because of dumb policies in Washington state. From 2005, before I was an investor, to 2022, rents climbed relatively slow. We saw I started investing around 2013. So you've seen I've enjoyed a rent increase. I've enjoyed property values going up, same thing. I was doing about a 5% increase every other year. Every other year, I would see my rents go up 5%. Now, when I had a tenant turnover, I would do what every other landlord does, clean the place up, max out the rents because I'm getting area average rents now, bigger increase than even my binder strategy gets me. So the best outcome sometimes is a tenant turnover. I'd get this massive rent increase. And then in 2022, rent control was brought to committee in our open session of our legislature. And I sent an email with a video link of how I will get richer from rent control, how it forces me to raise rents every year, where I was doing 5% every other year. Now I'm going to do the 7% I'm allowed to every year, which takes me from 5% every other year to 14% every 2 years, almost tripling my rent increases. And a rent increase to gross is a massive increase to net. It didn't come out of committee. 2023, but the threat of it in 2022 meant that myself and all of the landlords in my state raised rents because it was so close. There was actually what's called an RCW, a Revised Code of Washington, that said rent control in Washington state is illegal. There was a code saying you can't have it, and it made it to committee, almost made it out of committee. So all landlord fear went through the roof because we just had our expenses increase from 2020. Insurance has tripled from fires in other states, floods in other states, and now we have floods in our state. So all of these reasons that can happen to make prices go up, and we were about to have rent control. So my brother David, who had a tenant in place from 2006 to 2023, had never raised the rent. He has a paid off property. He was comfortable with it. He thought they pay their rent on time. They're a really nice family. I'm never going to raise their rent. He had to raise their rent. He did the binder strategy. He practiced 3 times on tenants that were newer and didn't have a rent increase. But then he went to his tenant from 2006 and did the binder strategy and basically almost doubled their rents. They're still getting a good deal because he was afraid of rent control being put in, like the rest of us. Because some expense, property taxes can triple. That's what passed in Washington also in 2025. From 1% to 3% is the cap. We have all of these expenses, labor, materials going up, and rent control in 2023 was posed again, almost passed. 2024 passed. 2025 was implemented. In 2025, rent control went into effect. So I'm getting stupid rich. Look at the last 3 years, last 2 years, really. Rents have skyrocketed. So here's the warning and the part of the video that I'm hoping registers with all of the landlords that are out there. If some legislature happens in your state, All short-term rentals have to go away. Rent control is implemented. Building processes take years to go through. Your property taxes triple. Your insurance costs triple. So all rents in your area skyrocket. That doesn't mean because rents are skyrocketing in Washington state now, they've gone up pretty much 100% from the last 3 or 4 years, right? Places that would rent for 1,200 are now 2,050 or 2,100, almost 100% increase. Since it's so expensive to rent, more people are looking into first-time homebuyer programs and becoming homebuyers. More demand on housing has made Washington the #1 appreciating market in the United States for the last 20 years. More demand is creating higher prices, which means a lot of dumb landlords, use the word again, the tards out there are going to go, I have all this debt equity. I bought a duplex for $300,000. It's now worth $800,000. I should take out that equity. It's debt equity. I'll add debt to my existing asset, narrowing my margins, but I'll buy some more properties. So I'll continue to have more cash flow and you'll have the things that I like. More levered appreciation, more levered depreciation, a bigger asset portfolio that will scale over time. It all sounds great until we have a regime shift and the winds of legislature change. And at some point in the future, rent control can go away. Now, what will happen to my rents? Hopefully, for my tenants' sake, they drop 40% because the threat of rent control has caused them to go up more than 40%. Tenants are being screwed because rent control was talked about and now it's implemented. And now I have to do a 7% increase every year because I can't do a big adjustment. If something changes in the future, I have to do the maximum allowable rent. And I'm not even doing that. That would be 7% plus inflation. I'm only doing 7%. But I'm not going to make the mistake that a lot of landlords in Washington are going to make, and who could make it in your states too, is what happens if rent control goes away and I took out all my equity by adding all of the debt to my assets? I'd go bankrupt. I'd lose my properties. I recycled cash flow to grow my properties so I'm more stable. I keep a low levered position, especially in retirement. I've been retired since 2022. Do you think I'm enjoying the rent increases since I retired? Thank you, rent control. I feel really bad for my tenants, but I'm not the one that voted this law in. I'm the one that fought against it. And now I'm giving a warning to all of those people out there who have rentals, who see rents going up in your market. Maybe it's Washington with rent control. Maybe it's another state like Florida where insurance went up so much. Every time there's a tenant turnover, people are raising the rents a lot. So you're seeing a lot of builds come online in Texas, so rents can be coming down. Rents do different things in different markets. There's not one United States market. There's hundreds of them. Pay attention to things can change and have a plan for when rents drop because they can. In local markets, they can. They've never dropped since 1940 when we started tracking the data market wide. That's never happened. Even in 2009, when luxury rents came down, in some markets like Silicon Valley or in the dot-com crash or something like that, rents went down, but market wide, Class C property rental demand went up. Take it as a warning. Well, two warnings. One, rent control hurts tenants. Two, thinking that the gains you've acquired because of some legislative change, too many syllables in that word, got you richer. Don't get greedy. Don't max out your leverage because you can. Put it to the amount that you should. Like an all-you-can-eat restaurant should be an all-you-can-eat, all-you-should-eat restaurant. Thanks for bearing with me on the challenge of getting this to go live today. YouTube and Zoom completely changed how you go live and gave no warning, no email saying, hey, as of this day, you're going to need 45 minutes to get ready to go live instead of 3 like you normally do. So glad to be here. Appreciate everybody hanging out with me. The rest of this video will be dedicated to answering your questions. The intro at the beginning of every video is here to, and I'm seeing the chat from the wrong video for some reason. I have no idea how to see the chat on this one. So let me pull it up on my phone. This is great, great YouTube content. How? No challenges. It is definitely time for the rum and coke. You know, I was telling somebody's drinking Coke online and there's no bubbles in it. They find my live. Hey, look at that. It is working, kind of. So I could see the comments and that we've got a few people here. So some of you found the live stream. Thank you, even though I made a live stream in advance before. Yay. What is going on with rents in your market? That would be my question. Are you ready for a massive rent shift in your market? Why is there an alarm during my live stream? This is going to be one of those days. I'm going to be spending it at the beach in Hua Hin, going to dinner tonight with a friend of Cody Davis's, who's here in Thailand, uh, who lives in Renton, has I think 150 or 170 units, built a place in Surat Thani here in Thailand for his spouse. Looking forward to hearing that story. Maybe there'll be a video in the future. But I see the chat here. Howdy, everybody. I'm Millennial Mike. Dion late to his own live. Got to make an entrance. Frustrated, irritating. Matthew Steed great. I love it. Quarters taking care of business. Nice. Aloha, Mark. Food deliver. Good to see you here. Kevin, good evening from Lakeland, Florida. Nice. Hey, was about to start a voodoo chant on another chat. Got to do the rain dance, I guess. And we are live. It's working. Nice work. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hit the like button. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. Lead Pray Hodl, a channel you should check out if you invest in. Oh, I got a handyman that has to be paid. So I'll be handing me that in a second. Um, I don't want to put him off too long. Always pay on time, always tip. I had to deal with real landlord stuff on a trip. I had a tenant call and say, I think your septic system has completely died, or all of the pipes are broken. This is the introduction to being a landlord. Replacing a septic system is last one was 17 grand. All of your pipes are broken, can be thousands of dollars. So when you're on a vacation, can't call it that. When you're retired and you're on a trip, and you think, I'm on this trip, I'm gonna enjoy myself. I have plenty of money. There's money coming in. Oh, hey, look at this big, huge expense that comes in. Let me stress out for a minute. No, let me call my handyman, one of the ones on my list, one of the good ones, because not all of them are. And they go to find out that a rodent passed away at the wrong place and caused a smell. And so with travel time and tip, I'm probably out a couple $100. But a lot of people would think, I don't want to be a landlord because you can get that nightmare call when you're on a trip or their vacation before they retire. And it could cost you money. Oh no, yeah. Or your job could cost you 60 plus hours a week and decades of your life. Pretty easy trade-off for me. And if it was the whole septic system, the tenant's been paying me to fix it. Where's the map? The map is in the United States. I didn't bring it with me. Travel light wouldn't come to Thailand because so when I go to Portugal, it's pretty easy. We're in the Algarve. There's not a lot of traveling. And if you are, it's pretty easy to travel there. But in Thailand, this is literally the planes, trains, and automobiles trip. We've had a 4 hour taxi ride. We've had two overnight train rides. We've had a bus. We had an overnight bus ride that was actually more comfortable than the one train ride. We had a flight, an extra flight we weren't counting on. We took a flight to skip one train ride, like travel light when we're here. Because you're chasing the weather and the beaches and it's almost like being on a cruise. This country has all of the excursions. And we're excursions in Portugal too, but they're all in one area. JMFS. I'm under market. I'm not greedy enough in strategy, but I'm changing. Yeah, it's not a matter of being greedy. It's finding the balance. I like to find the balance with rents. Tenants should feel like they're getting a good deal that keeps tenant turnover low, but you should be making a profit because you're going to have expenses. The accidental landlord. Been watching rents drop in my home market, Jacksonville, Florida, also my Property in Reno, Nevada, last year had to drop $100 to get it back occupied. Rents are soft, in your opinion. Agreed. Local markets can do different things. And in Florida and Texas, what you had was the red blue shift 2020, 2021. A lot of demand for purchases, a lot of demand for rentals, people moving to try it out. Rents skyrocketed. Well, then that balanced out. A lot of people realized, wow, the politics sucked, but they've kind of calmed down because the pandemic stuff has gone away. So that bad state that I left and was going to bring my bad voting policies to Texas and Florida anyway, they went back. So you had the boomerang effect. You had all the people that moved to Idaho. Boise just ballooned in 2021 and then actually popped after that because they also had their worst winter in a decade, which caused a lot of coastal boomerang moves from people going there. Rentals are local. You have to know your market. You cannot look at a YouTube channel like mine and say, here's what's going on in Washington State where there is no R with Dion. And let me set my rents based on that because Washington had rent control go into effect. Washington is a blue state. I specifically invest in a red county in a blue state because it drives prices and rents up. So I'm benefiting from the rents. I'm accidentally benefiting from the appreciation. I like how I've got Alfred Hitchcock just hanging out with me here on the side. Uh, I didn't bring my lighting setup either. And I am in La Habana, the hotel-ish listed as a hotel on Agoda that is actually a condo. Lesson learned on that one. Amazing pool park area, great beach access. I'm the genie though. Phenomenal cosmic living ability, itty bitty living space. I don't know that this would qualify as a bedroom for one of our rentals, but I'm only here for a couple weeks. So yeah, the accidental landlord, watch rents in your market. Watch trends. An example is in 2020, I closed on a fourplex in January of 2020, and I thought, ooh, pandemic, world shutting down. Maybe don't buy anything else for a while. Sit back and see what's going to happen. Ken McElroy talked about a 40% crash because the world stopped. And it's the first time we'd ever seen it. I was just as scared as everybody else as far as the market goes. But Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time was talking about interest rates, which I'd never really paid attention to. I shop to get the best rates, but I don't really care where they're at. I'm just going to get the best that I can at the time. Well, it dropped so much, I was like, ooh, I'm going to empty out my retirement accounts and buy my triplex. My best performing asset to date so far. Chester, howdy. Ryan, good to see you guys here. Are you still in Gary? There you go. Dungeon Dojo. I don't know why I go into anime voice. When making an offer, what do you think about asking for something not that important to you so that you can give it back in negotiation to make sure you get what is important to you? Yeah, there's a lot of that goes into negotiation. Most people focus on two things and have never even thought of the third. The first is, what does the other person want? Finding that out, this is taken right from the Lumberjack Landlord's course, asking the seller or their agent, what are the three most important things to the seller? Because it's not always price. Most agents will respond price, 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 because that impacts commission, commission, commission. But the seller might want a place to be for a few months. They want to make sure you're not going to kick out their tenants. There could be some things that they're looking for you not doing. And if you find that out, you can set their fears at ease and become more attractive than even a higher price. So that's the first thing in negotiations. What do they want? Let me see if I can satisfy their itch because then I'm going to get what I want. And then people focus on what do I want? You want a good price. You want a fast close. You want concessions. You want a price adjustment. You want to feel like you beat the list price, which means nothing to me because it's the price that we agree on at the end, not the one they thought it was worth in the beginning. That means everything, like all of those things. But the third thing in negotiation that most people never figure out, first of all, in that second thing where what do I want? The thing that people miss is you in negotiations, people think the person who speaks first loses, right? That's a strong way to look at it. The person who mentions numbers first generally loses, but asking questions is also speaking, and the first person to ask questions isn't the one who loses. But if you find out what the other person wants, don't forget to let them know what you want, because if you don't let them know what cheese you're after, their imagination is going to create more scams than you can think of. Things that you couldn't even think of that they think you're trying to pull on them. But when you let them know, I'm after a cash flowing property, long-term tenants, I'm whatever you're looking for, and you let them know, then they're going to stop imagining all of the scams they think you're after. So that's the first two things in negotiation. But the third thing, so it's a great way of looking at it, Dungeon Dojo, of so an example for me is if when I bought my fourplex, I think there was about $15,000 where I had to put a roof. It was the only one I've ever put a roof on at that point. So I needed to put a roof on it. Uh, I was going to have to do cash for keys to get a tenant out because it was owner occupied. And I was thinking of all this in my thing. So I pointed out all of the things like the roof and some deck work and a tree trimming and some other things. And I asked for at least twice. I wanted twice what I asked for. I asked for, I think, 30. And they countered at 10, and I was happy with that. So I got 10,000 off. Didn't matter because that's off the list price. It still made sense to me. It was the price I offered. So I asked for more than I wanted, so they would settle somewhere in the middle. Because while you never split the difference, you let them split the difference. So you ask for more than you want. So sometimes ask for things that you don't care about, so you can give it back. That's a smart strategy too. But the third thing to think about in negotiations, pick number three, my lord. What are you both losing? We know what they're getting. They want to sell the property. They need the down payment. If they're doing seller financing, they know how much they need. The agent's getting their commissions. They're getting another close, another little feather in their hat to brag about for the year. The seller is getting rid of a headache, whatever they're getting out of it. You're getting a new asset. You're getting the cash flow. You're getting a place to put your money that isn't the bank so that it's not hurt by inflation. It's benefiting from inflation. Words are hard. But what are you losing? You're losing the opportunity cost of taking the money from the bank and putting in the assets. A little harder to get to it now. It's still there, it's still yours, but it's a little harder to get to. You're losing the peace of mind of having the number of tenants you have. You're adding the ones you're adding to it. They're losing an asset. They're losing the ongoing cash flow and levered appreciation, depreciation, tax benefits of this. If you know what everybody's losing, you're also a little bit better at negotiating because you're not so focused on what everybody's getting out of it. Because you will not realize what the other person is losing, and you might say something or bring up something that clarifies it for them. Maybe they'll back out. Or maybe they'll feel like, yeah, this really is a good asset that you just talked about how much cash flow you're going to get. And I'm losing that. And maybe I should get more money for it. So, no, I'm not going to negotiate with you as well. Think of those three things when it comes to negotiation. Janitor on fire. Howdy. Corridor Chris. Salud. It's funny we say that. We say cheers, salud, skol, mazel tov. Can't drink all day unless you start early. We have a list. Oh, and then it's called the McNeeley chair. There's a cuss word in here, so I'll abbreviate. McNeeley chair, you ready? So first of all, there's a drinking game. Anytime you're watching the Three Amigos, for me, it's anytime I'm watching YouTube, and hear somebody say, but at the end of the day, Walter Cronkite kicks out there, and yeah, that means you're over 50. But you hear that, you have to drink when you hear at the end of the day. The McNeeley toast. Here's to you, and here's to me. May we never disagree. But if we should, F you, and here's to me. Cheers. Cheers. Can't drink all day unless you start early, especially if you're going to spend the day at the beach. Wear the hat. There's no alarm you can hear. Really? Nice. Good. Dion, I have a question. Evan, evangelist, evangelist Ivan Bias. Nice. It's a lot of words all together. Sorry. Uh, First of all, Dylan, I have a question. I like it. It's my new name. I have a house that I bought in 2020. I have some equity and I would like to rent the house. I have a house that I purchased in 2020. I would like to buy a second one to rent the house out that I'm living in. The question is, should I buy my second house with the 20% down or buy with 10%? Good question. Better question than I thought it was going. For a second, I had the knee-jerk fear of, I bought a house in 2020. It's 5 years later. Look at all the equity. Let me take the equity out and buy a house, which was what the entire intro to this video was about. Don't do that because rents can soften. Uh, I did 5% down on my first duplex, and then I did 20 or 25% on everything since then. So I'm more of a fan of having a less levered position. However, my next purchase, I'm doing 100% levered. I'm using a VA loan. I have an offer in on a fourplex. I might have Alex, the accidental investor, accidental landlord, go and check it out for me while I'm here. We'll see. We're in negotiations, right? And I'm using my three-tiered approach to that. But I wouldn't touch the equity. I would be saving for the down payment. And if you're going to house hack, if you could do the 10%, can you find a lender that doesn't have mortgage insurance at 10% because they exist? That's a real thing. I know most lenders say, oh, we can only do what we can do this week, but last week was different and next week will be different. Uh, what is your overall levered position? If you've had one since 2020 that has good equity, I'd be okay with a 10% down on the current one because your portfolio would still be not 100% levered, probably not 80% levered. My goal in growth mode was 70% levered. In retirement, it's 50 and I'm way below that. So that's why I'm doing 100% levered on the next property. I want to bring my levered position up. Uh, each situation is unique. How much do you have to put down? How much reserves is your lender going to require? What lending product can you find? Can you do 10% without mortgage insurance? If you do it with mortgage insurance, compare that price to the 20%. Which one makes more sense? Run the calculation at 10% down or 20% down to see which one has the better yield. And if you did 10% down, does that mean you have money left over to acquire something else sooner? If you're doing owner occupied and you're getting the best interest rate you can, I would do probably 10% and lever more. If you're doing an investment purchase where the interest rate's going to be slightly higher, I might consider the 20% to lever less at the higher rate. Like there's a whole bunch of moving things there, and you might want to back the video up and watch it right there again for a few minutes. Thank you for the question. I appreciate the questions. It's why we're here. And we're also here because it's not warm enough to go to the beach yet. It's only 78 degrees out, and I wait till it's 80 something. Gotta love Thailand. While my home state is. So when I left Washington, we got to Thailand and there was flooding going on. And I was supposed to go to Phuket, have some dives planned, maybe go to Koh Tao. And there was so much flooding going on. I thought, oh, I'm going to let them deal with their issues. And we went to Chiang Mai, hung out with the elephants and the tigers and the proposal and all of these things that we did in the north where there was no flooding. So now we're in the south where there is no flooding. And now there's flooding back in Washington. I hope everybody's doing okay. It looks like it sucks. Kid City. Julie, if David has no debt, is he paying a crazy amount of taxes? Absolutely, it drives him crazy. He hates taxes. It stresses him out every year. And as much as he hates taxes, he would hate the idea of paying interest to a bank, even if it was a fraction of the taxes. And that it's not because the interest is a write-off. Julie, you understand this. I'm going to say it for anybody that's new or in the back of the room that hasn't been paying attention. The debt is how you don't pay taxes, not because of the write-off. It's because I get to depreciate the part of the property that the bank's money purchased and mine. David only got to depreciate the part of the property that he purchased. And they're all paid off. And it took him 30 years to reach financial freedom. So he's depreciated most of them. And they were cheap. So he didn't have a lot to depreciate in the beginning. And his rents are high. So he has good income. But he pays a metric F ton in taxes. And I show him my return every year. I thought 2025 was going to be the first year where I finally graduated to, well, I'm going to pay some rental income tax on my taxes. And I carried forward a $13,000 loss and made $240,000 in profit. The no debt thing is great. He sleeps well at night. But the last thing I'll rub a little bit in David's face, because that's the kind of relationship we have. And I'm out of striking distance right now, is although I'd like if he can come and hang out with us for a bit here, at least get some dives in with us. He is in Texas right now, the other Australia of the United States, there for the Christmas to hang out with his grandkids. But in 2020, both of our net worths were about $1 million. I purchased my fourplex. I acquired $1 million in debt and $1 million in net worth. He had $1 million in net worth because he had the paid off properties. In 2024 or so, I did a whiteboard video where values had gone up. He had gained about 40%. He gained 40% of $1 million. So his net worth went to 1.4 million. I gained 40% of my net worth, my debt, and the properties that I added to where my net worth tripled. I went from $1 million to $3 million. because of the debt. If it wasn't for debt, I'd be as poor as my financially free brother. Weird words to say. Arthur Sims. I currently have two rentals, howdy, and my debt to income is maxed out with debt to the mortgage. I want to ask, at what point is paying off debt trying to acquire more units? Not until you're in retirement and you don't want to grow anymore and you're okay with losing money. That's when you pay off debt. It does make sense when that's the state you're at. Your debt to income ratio is a problem right now because you don't have enough rental income on your tax returns. Once you have tax returns with rental income for 2 years, debt to income ratio becomes almost meaningless. Lenders have told me after those first 2 years, you can borrow as much as you want. We don't care. There's no limit as long as you have the down payment. After you have rental income on your tax returns for 2 years, so this is why you should be talking to lenders now. If you've got those properties, how long have you had them? You go to lenders and you show claim your rental income on your tax returns. You should be doing that anyways. That's what makes you bankable. Don't cheat the system because while prison is the ultimate house hack, it's not my retirement plan. Claim your income on your taxes, depreciate your properties, use your write-offs. You shouldn't be paying any taxes as long as you're using mortgages. Once you have the rental income on 2 years, the lenders will look at 75% of your rents in your debt to income ratio, which helps. But then you go to buy a new property, they will look at 75% of the rents on that property in your debt to income ratio, meaning that as long as you're buying a decent deal, doesn't even have to be a home run, just a decent deal, 75% of the rent should cover the mortgage. That's the ratio that you need to where there's no limit. Debt to income means nothing. It's just a 2 year challenge that if you're trying to scale too fast, they generally try to stop lending you money because in the first 2 years is when you tend to make your mistakes. And the bank wants to know that you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot. Do you know how to screen tenants, find tenants, hire maintenance problems, contractors, do maintenance, deal with your city permit office, like all of those things that we don't know to do in the beginning. When you buy a property, are you having the sewer system scoped? Coach Carson said this really well at the BiggerPockets event in Vegas. He was talking to somebody. So this is a butchered third-party version of what he said. If you scale really fast in the beginning and you make a mistake, you're going to scale so fast you won't realize it until you've made it several times. That's painful. Compound effect of speed. The first year I lost money. If I had several rentals, I would have lost so much I would have went bankrupt. Instead, I had one for 2 years. It saved to buy the next one, fixed some of my problems, bought a duplex, made some mistakes. 2 years till I bought the next one. So in 4 years, I bought two properties and had three total. So yeah, are you past those 2 years? That's when things get a lot easier. JMFS took back a message to make me lose sleep and wonder forever and ever what was said. Jay Mullis, howdy. Mr. Don, I own 6 rentals, retired firefighter, awesome. I was happy to find someone that had the same viewpoint regarding LLCs versus umbrella insurance on top of landlord insurance. Nice. Love it. Um, yeah, I think I saw a comment from you the other day. The LLCs make sense when they make sense. It's not for asset protection if you don't have partners, and it's not for tax benefits because there aren't any. But if you have partners or your lending requires it, sure, have an LLC. Or if you're like Dave Meyer, the host of BiggerPockets, who has a bunch of rentals, has each one in an LLC, whether he has partnerships or not, and is adding rentals, who cares what he does, right? I don't care what he does. I care about a new investor. Like you have 6, that's not new. I think somebody who doesn't have any and is thinking, I have to have an LLC so I can put all my properties in an LLC. I have to name it. How do I not commingle finances? How do I pay myself from it? Why is my lending so much more expensive? Why does my insurance cost more? Like that's who I'm worried about. And they get stopped in their tracks before they even own a property. So yeah, it is nice to find people with similar thoughts. I looked into the multiple LLCs, but it just didn't pencil out the amount of work and fees and all the money your CPA and attorney would be making from you, which they would really appreciate. I think there was more to the message, but I can't see it. Thank you, Mr. Don. I totally agree. Steel Cruise, or Steel Cruisel. Howdy. When screening tenants, if you have a couple that has one qualified but the other is not qualified, would you still accept them? You're engaged, not married. The one not qualified has some collections. So, first of all, take the relationship status out of it. Most places that's a protected thing you can't use as a qualifier, but you're renting to each adult in the place. Every person above 18, you're renting to them, they all sign the lease. So to me, they all have to qualify. So if there was a person who was applying who didn't qualify, had some collections, credit score was too low or whatever, I'd still rent to them with a cosigner. So I have tenants where I believe it's even just a roommate situation because I don't ask because these are the people who applied. They applied together. The names are different. I don't know if they're married or not. Who cares? One, actually, there's just three people in this roommate situation. One of them didn't qualify. So everyone's aware the other two are co-signing for the one who doesn't qualify. So it's in the lease where if these people move out, this person has to then get a co-signer or the doesn't count. Like just be as clear as you can in there. So if one person qualifies and the other one doesn't, the one that does is being co-signer for the other. So even if they move out, they're still on the hook for that one, at least for the duration of the lease. If not, the person who doesn't qualify can have somebody else who does qualify be a co-signer. And anytime you have somebody co-signing for somebody else, I have the signatures notarized. There's a lot of times where people say, "Oh, my mom will co-sign for me," and then mom never has a clue. Are you really going to pursue somebody who you believe that your tenant scammed? No, have it notarized. Good question. Pew deliver. We haven't had a major hurricane in South Carolina in years, which have kept repairs at a minimum. Therefore, but an insurance cost. Rents are stable. Nice. Yeah, see, local market. Know your local market. AJ Matus. There's probably a different way to pronounce that. Put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. In a recent video, you offered to stay away from CPAs who advise on N1 LLC per property house. Hoping to understand why. I have two rentals, seeking a third, was thinking time to consider an entity. Why? There's zero tax benefits and zero asset protection unless you have partners. An LLC will protect you from somebody else's mistakes, not from yours. When you're sued, all of your assets are at risk. Every one of your LLCs is your asset. So if you own an LLC here and you own an LLC here and you get sued and it goes above and beyond this LLC to where, yeah, they've taken it, it's gone. You think, oh, this one's safe. No, that means you are sued and that is one of your assets. So a lot of times for decades, judges would do this thing called piercing the veil. Did you commingle finances? Were the structure set up right? Blah, blah, blah. Now what they do is they use the 1996 IRS precedents, the three counties that I invest in, disregard the entities. If you don't have partners, they are disregarded entities. They mean nothing in the court system. Could be in your county too. So either it gets pierced or it gets disregarded. There are three forms of asset protection that you should consider as you scale your portfolio, and none of them are LLCs. First of all, again, if you have partners, have an LLC. Second, if you're using hard money or some kind of lending structure where they say you have to do this in an LLC, a DSCR loan maybe, and your lender specifically requires it, sure, have an LLC. Makes the deal happen. But it's not asset protection and it's not tax benefits because there are none. Because of the 1996 IRS determination that all sole proprietor LLCs are disregarded entities, meaning I get every single tax break that anybody with an LLC does. Except I don't get to write off the cost of making the LLC, maintaining the LLC, filing taxes on each LLC, all of those things that get wrapped up into a bunch of money your CPA and attorney makes. That's why they recommend your LLCs. First form of asset protection is insurance, homeowners insurance on your property. I have up to $300,000, what's called slip fall or injury protection. Somebody gets hurt, up to $300,000, full replacement value on the properties. That's homeowners insurance. I don't call it landlord insurance because I don't want to be paid rent if there's a problem without getting rents. I'm not worried about that. I want the building rebuilt or I want to be repaid the value of the property, not the value of the mortgage. And once I got to where you're at, a couple of properties, I should have done it at three. I didn't do it till four. I got an umbrella policy, meaning that if somebody gets hurt or I get sued and it goes above the $300,000, then a $2 million umbrella policy kicks in, and that insurance's attorneys are on my side defending their money. The second form of asset protection is I don't want paid off properties. I own 8 properties, 18 rental units. I live in one, so I have 17 rented out. 6 of my properties have a mortgage. The bank is in first position on 6 of those properties. If I get sued, nobody's going to take those properties because the bank has first position. So even in a bankruptcy, if I continue to make payments, I'd be able to keep those properties. The 2 that are paid off, they're okay. You're like, oh, I sleep better at night because I don't pay the bank money. Yeah, no, I have no asset protection. I don't like that. The third form of asset protection and the most important form of asset protection is being proactive and actually fixing stuff. Have your handyman check stuff when they go to do something at a tenant's place. Like, there's a smell, I found a rodent. Did you know one of your rain gutters not only needs cleaned, but it seems to be a little loose? So I'm going to have rain gutter work done. Like, they do a kind of inspection when they go there and they know what to look for. They're looking for food items left on counter. So if there's an ant or a rodent control, they tell me it was the tenant's problem, not a me problem. And this tenant had a very clean house. So the rodent problem is because we probably put poison down and it killed it, and that one didn't dehydrate enough not to smell. Um, they're checking for security of the banisters, things leaning against baseboard heaters. That's a real thing with one stupid tenant. Every time somebody goes there, but to remind them that. Uh, keep your insurance current. Be proactive. Fix things. If a tenant calls and complains and says the cabinet squeaks when I open it, yeah, that goes on the next time somebody's there to fix something, we'll take care of that, unless it's really bothering them. But if they go, yeah, every time I step up, this third step creaks and bends in about 3 inches. Yeah, that's tonight getting fixed at an emergency price to get a handyman out there with a big tip to get it fixed before somebody gets hurt. Be proactive. But there's no asset protection from having an LLC without partners, and there's no tax benefits. Thank you for asking the question. Much appreciated. The LLC thing comes up a lot. If you just Google LLC rant, Dion talk, you'll get my many videos on why that's been an issue. And again, if you have rentals and you want to add LLCs and you will continue to buy rentals, who cares? Do whatever you want. Just don't want somebody stopped in their tracks by something that doesn't actually help them. The accidental landlord chasing down an REO property now. Lender pulled rents 1,800. I call three property managers and they said 1,600 right now. Area average rent set rents, not the bank, not the current lease doesn't even set rents. That could be something they expect to go down next year because their deposit was wrapped up into their monthly payment. There can be all kinds of things. Area average rents, set rents. How do the numbers look with those area average rents? Does it work at 1,600? Have you done a good rent study, not just called three property managers? Have you looked up what BAH will pay? Basic allowance for housing for the military. If you're near a base or in college, because if you go to college with your GI Bill, you get paid BAH. That can help set rents. What will Section 8 pay for that number of bedrooms in that area? Those aren't exactly what rents are, but it gives you an idea if it's higher or lower. So have you gone to Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, apartments.com for at least a couple of weeks and watched rentals? This many of units, fenced yard, parking, whatever is as similar to yours as possible, or the one you're looking at as possible. What are those rents going for? Cracked Canvas. Howdy. Good to see you. Cracked Canvas community. Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel left out of that statement. Steel Cruzoe, can you explain your thought process on putting a rental in an LLC in your own name? I just did that. Hopefully it made sense. There is no one right way to do this. There's a one right way for you. Do what you're the most comfortable with. An example is, I'm a fan of debt. Leverage set me free. Multi-millionaire, hundreds of thousands in cash flow because of debt. If it wasn't for debt, I wouldn't own one property. My brother David has 10 paid off rentals, calls me a moron for having a mortgage. He's also retired. He retired at 50. Now, it took 30 years of investing. It took me a decade. But he retired younger than I did. I didn't retire until I was 52 because I didn't start investing until I was 40. I didn't even buy the first property until I was 43. Really, it was 2013. It was a birthday present. So I was turning 43 when I purchased that and then retired at 52. So from closure of first duplex to retirement was 9 years. But I also count the couple of years saving, working on credit score, studying my market as being investing. So I call it a decade. Yeah. Thank you, Cracked Canvas. Marland Ari, good evening from Colorado. That sounds like a real place. And is where Chesla's from, I think, Colorado. Most of her childhood was there. JMFS, does your book cover taxes for house hacking? Not a year in yet and want to buy a utility sink using some of the rent money. So all of the rent money is yours. Spend it however you like. Where you live is not depreciated and not technically used as a tax write-off. Although if you're house hacking and going to move out and make it a rental, there's a gray area there. All tax questions, and this would be in the book too, which is now on Kindle. The Audible version is done. It takes about 10 days to be analyzed by ACX, and they're going to point out all these problems that I have to fix. So I don't know how soon it's going to be, but the Audible version will be coming out soon. It's like it's done, it's uploaded, everything's in there. It's in, it's going to be a volley back and forth till it passes all of whatever they need. But the written book is on Amazon. It's Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person. There's a Kindle version. I'm hoping the Audible version comes out within the next 10 days, mostly because I want it out, but I also don't want to have to fight them on every little nuance of how you record it for them. It took 6 months to get Zubers released once it was finished. Like that's how long it could take. So don't get your hopes up, because mine aren't. I don't cover taxes in detail other than the benefits of them and why you should hire a CPA as soon as you have one rental, because there's multiple forms of depreciation and I don't even want to know what they are. I just want to know that I benefit from them. I use this sentence to justify hiring a CPA. Congress is full of people who own properties that make laws that benefit people who own properties. And I want a CPA who takes their time to study those laws so that I benefit from them. And I'll give you a little bit of an example. I live in a duplex right now. I retired and then bought a duplex because it's on the water. I could walk to all the restaurants and bars. I could walk to the ferry and go have lunch in Seattle. It's in the Pacific Northwest where I want to live, but I wanted a duplex, so I have a tenant on the property. So when I'm in Thailand for the entire winter, I'm here for 3 months, and then when I don't even have a return trip yet, I'm flying back to Vegas for the one rental at a time event in February, and then I might go to Scotland. I'm not sure. I might go home to Washington. I like to be there in the summer, fall, late spring, maybe. But half of my duplex is depreciated. 50% of the property is being depreciated, 50% is not. But I get the write-offs of being a homeowner. So when I go to sell, I can use the IRS 121 rule, which lets you sell a property without, if you're single, up to $250,000 in gains with no taxes, up to $500,000 in gains if you're stupid, I mean married, and gains without paying taxes. So this is how convoluted taxes can be. I'm going to be selling that duplex in 2026. That's my plan. Because my experience with the Port Orchard permit office was so negative, I just want to be out of that property. It's also far from my kids, far from Chesla's kids, far from our rentals. So there's a few reasons why I'm going to sell it. Also, it's going to create hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit because I did a burr there, my first and last burr. So there's a couple of reasons why I want to sell it. IRS 121 rule will protect me on the gains on 50% of the property. The other 50% I will have capital gains tax and depreciation recapture on and might 1031 that. Like there's some confusing, convoluted tax stuff going on. I'm not a tax guy, so I wouldn't put details in the book, but I would say, because that's so nuanced, hire a pro. And like the lumberjack landlord and Beth Traverso say, hire an EA, somebody who's specifically trained every year, passed tests every year, and who focuses on real estate. I don't care, pay attention here. I don't care if my CPA owns rentals. I actually don't think mine does now. He might. I've never asked. I don't care. I asked, how many clients do you work with who own rentals? A CPA who owns a bunch of rentals that doesn't have any clients that own rentals might be really bad at his own taxes. But a CPA who has many clients who own rentals has to get it good enough to where he's going to keep those clients, or she's going to keep those clients. That's the question I would ask. And what was in my video the other day. Thanks. Duke. And then my chat moved, which is great. That means there's questions. There we go. Good evening, everyone. Howdy. Evangelist Ivan. There you go. Thank you. I will do owner occupied. My first house mortgage, 1,400, and I can rent that house for 2,000. I can get in cash flow at least 300 after PITI and set cash for vacancy and maintenance. Awesome. Sounds awesome. Congratulations. Yeah. JMF says, I deleted a couple of my agreeable opinions so that I got to hear more great Q&A. Very inspired. Thank you. I don't mind the deleted messages. It's just the thing I say. I appreciate the insight. Thank you, Arthur. The accidental landlord for a recently purchased rental. Do LVP floors justify higher rent, or do you view it more as long-term maintenance savings? So no, LVP floors Well, so if a house is empty and you have tenant turnover, the appearance of the house can impact the rents that you get this much. Area average rents set rents. If you're in an area and rents are 2,000, but you put in platinum countertops and marble flooring and electronic doors and a smart house and everything, you're not going to get $3,000 a month in rent. Is it the same size as everything? And what else is in the neighborhood? What type of neighborhood is it? All of that's going to determine rents. You might get 22 or 2,300 if you spend $1 billion on the place. You might get a little more, sure. So I wouldn't spend money to get better rents, but carpet doesn't get high rents in some markets. Is it in your market? I live in the Pacific Northwest. Carpet's gross. It's muddy, it's wet. Carpet just will be this much taller when you sell the place than when you bought it because of all the mud and dirt and germs and bacteria that grow underneath your carpet. So when I buy a place, if there's a tenant there, I don't generally rip out the carpet and disrupt the tenant and put in LVP. But when I have a tenant turnover, that will get LVP. I think one time I have kept carpet in because it was in such good shape. Uh, so I don't even go through the expense. What matters to me is that there's a three-tone aspect to a rental. I want the floor, the baseboard, and the walls to be different colors. The baseboard should be a bright color, gives it a crisp outline, gives it a more modern look. I also update the electricity to the square version, paddle switches, square plugs, small things like that to make it look updated because I'm buying all properties. My preferred age is 1980 to no newer than 2000. I don't want to own anything newer than 2000. I don't want to own anything older than 1979. Don't want lead and asbestos. Don't want the lack of profit that's going to happen in my market from anything newer than 2000. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't say that LVP gets you more rent because a lot of rentals in your area will have LVP if they've had turnover because LVP is more durable than carpet. I'm thinking, I have to think about it. I don't know that I've ever replaced LVP in a rental yet. I do have one that will need replaced when the tenant moves out, but they've trashed everything else about the property too. So I have replaced carpet with LVP, but I haven't yet to replace LVP with LVP. So I'm sure it'll happen. Uh, Good. It is a long-term maintenance thing, area average rents, set rents, but the three-tone thing, making it look more modern, making it look more attractive, making it look larger, apparently size matters, can get you more rents, but not more than area average rents. Not much more. Good evening, Flavio. Howdy from Grandview. Jason. Howdy. What about landlord insurance for a unit not being livable for a while, like a fire, and you need to put your tenants up in a hotel or somewhere until it's repaired? Or do you just cancel lease? Uh, yeah, I don't do landlord insurance for any of that. If there's a fire, I'm probably going to sell the place. I'm probably, because I'm not a builder guy, I'm not a permit pulling guy. I would probably scrape the lot and sell the place before I'd rebuild after a fire, depending on the damage amount of the fire, of course. If there's, just 5 to 10 grand or something, sure, I'm going to do the work. I'd probably let tenants out of their lease. Yeah. Who was I talking with? Um, Derek, that ADU guy, added landlord insurance protections, and it wasn't much more. So it's probably something I'm probably going to look into, but I don't want rent coverage. The put someone in a hotel, which I've done for up to like 4 days one time for a septic issue. Sure, I don't care. I'll pay for that. But are you going to make it would have to be such a big claim that you would make an insurance claim because when you make an insurance claim, the chances of all of your insurances tripling and no one else insuring you for 5 years is too big unless it's going to be a 50,000 plus dollar issue. Then I might make an insurance claim. But I'm not making an insurance claim for 10 grand or 20 grand or 30 grand because that'll cost me hundreds of thousands in the next 5 years. No thanks. It's a good question, though. But yeah, no, make sure you're properly insured or properly reserved. There are people that they get to a large enough scale that they don't have insurance. It's not required unless you have a mortgage, then the lender will require it. And they only require that the mortgage is insured. They don't even care that the property is insured. They just want to be made whole. But you can self-insure after a certain point. That's not me. But if I was Zuber size or lumberjack landlord size, I would look into self-insuring with an umbrella policy, maybe. See how that works. Jack Stewart, howdy. Matthew, howdy. Do you use Venmo to pay your handyman or other similar? Thank you for reminding me. Jeez, no. Venmo, Apple Pay, Cash App, Zelle, anything that leaves a paper trail. Make sure I pay the right handyman though. And let me see. Right now, this is somebody charges you for this, 100% tip in this case. Gotta love that. Pay. And I can't remember his name. That's why I didn't want to do it now. Because he's got a weird name on Zelle. Uh, and I paid him. I'm gonna have to do that when this is over because it'll take too long. But yeah, any one of those. I think I had one guy that used Chime because he had bank issues, and try to stay away from cash because I want receipts. Now, if it's a handyman that isn't going to be a write-off, sure, cash is fine. It's not my job to enforce the tax code and make sure that they claim their income. That's not my job. But I do like to leave a paper trail. Fork and Flow AI. Howdy. Or Al. I'm not sure. How will the floods in Washington affect real estate in prices, rents, labor, material? So home insurance, I think, is going up everywhere. Fires in California impact insurance costs nationwide. It's not like the underwriters for insurance in California are only in California. They are owned by companies that are nationwide. Uh, Floods, it's going to be expensive. I think, I almost think commuters might rethink how far they live from work, depending on how bad the damage ends up being. And then you got all these idiots saying, "Oh, look what climate change did." No, in the 1990s, there were floods like this. In the 1960s, there were floods like this. All these have been reported for as long as we've been recording data. It happens. Mudslides have been constant. Uh, I don't think it's going to impact prices. Not enough homes were destroyed to limit supply. Building takes permits forever. Look at how many houses have been built in Malibu. Um, yeah, labor and material costs might go up. I think the delay for projects is going to be a thing that impacts it. A lot of prevailing wage work, though. A lot of the county job replacement repair stuff is going to happen. Ryan, I got another mod job on a smaller channel that could use the support. I'll be back. Ciao. Beth, howdy. I hope you are doing okay. It seems like you are in the thick of it. And Jason C, loss of rent due to habitability is part of or should be part of your landlord insurance policy. It should be. It's not in any of mine because I've never cared about it. But I think if you don't have the reserves and you're concerned about it, sure. Uh, Evangelist, I would like to do a buy an audiobook. I'm a lazy reader. I'm an avid reader. I would say generally 2 or 3 books a week. When I have time to read, even in retirement, I would like to read. But who wants to bring a box of books? So I'm here for 3 months. How many books would that be? I have uh, what? What's in my Audible, in my library? 731 books in my Audible. Probably 300 I haven't read yet or listened to, however pedantic you want to be. But I'm often hiking, working out, gaming, doing something where listening is viable. So it's not so much lazy reading as lifestyle reading. Deconstructing Dreams, howdy from Reno. Josh, howdy. Signing closing docs for the refinance today. Congratulations. That's cool. You get to go. That's a beautiful thing. Brent, howdy. Can you touch on how you leverage debt? We are struggling to find loans with near perfect credit without lots down. How do you use the FHA loans if you don't live in rentals? First, never use an FHA loan. The less a man makes declarative statements, the less apt he is to look foolish in retrospect. Thank you, Tarantino. I said never. I recommend not using an FHA unless you absolutely have to, because FHA is not for home buyers. It's not for first-time buyers. It's not for owner-occupied. FHA was designed for people with bad credit and bad debt-to-income ratio, and it wasn't even designed or created for people to buy properties with. In 1934, we had the Great Depression going on, and 2 million construction workers were out of work, which doesn't sound like a lot, but look at the population of the time. In order to get 2 million construction workers back to work, the Federal Housing Authority was created and the FHA loan, Federal Housing Authority, FHA loan, not first-time home buyer anything. Federal Housing Authority, FHA loans were created to give people who shouldn't buy homes the opportunity to buy homes so that builders can build them, getting people back to work. It is primarily used during recessions to shorten the length of the recession, so more FHA push and better rates, and all of that happens. So do you have a bad debt to income ratio? Do you have a bad credit score? Doesn't sound like it based on your comment. Near perfect credit means you probably have a good debt to income ratio too. I'm just guessing. You should be using a conventional loan, owner occupied. So if you don't own a property and you want to buy one, it's only 3% down. Everybody's like, oh, FHA is only 3.5. Well, conventional first time is 3. Conventional on duplex, triplex, fourplex, and single family house and house with ADU, if you already own one, is 5%. So it is a little more than FHA, but you have a better levered position. Mortgage insurance, or PMI, automatically goes away when you hit the right equity position. So conventional is easier to get sellers to accept, less hoops to jump through. The perception from sellers is that FHA and VA are less attractive. So conventional for me wins in every scenario unless you have bad debt to income ratio and a bad credit score, which you might not should be buying a property at that point. You should be fixing those things. So no FHA loans in this case. Go conventional, shop lenders, get away. So my order of operations for lending is go to large banks. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, because they have the most standardized criteria. This is right out of the book. There's actually a chapter on this. And then once I'm under contract, I'll go to all my other lenders. Matt, the mortgage guy, mortgage brokers, Fairway Mortgage, Guild Mortgage. I used to go to credit unions, no luck with them in Washington. And say, here's what the bank is offering me. Can you beat it? And if anybody can beat it, I take that back to the bank and say, here's what somebody else is offering me. Can you match it? If the other person can beat it and the bank won't match it, then they get my business. If the bank will match it, then I stay with the bank. Do that every time, you get the best rates. It sounds like a lot of work. How many quotes will you get if you're going to build a deck at your house? 3 or 4? Why will people get a mortgage by talking to one lender? 30-year commitment to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're not going to take 5 emails? Total 5 emails probably. So that's how I do it. And how do I leverage debt? First one, I did 5% down. Everything since then was 20 or 25. And yeah, it doesn't go very fast. It took me 2 years to save the down payment on the first rental purchase property. And was a year and a half after that. Then I messed up, paid off the property, lost $1 million. And then I bought 2 in 1 year because I emptied out the retirement account, but I didn't do that until 7 years into investing. So like there's a chronology to this and it starts slow. It does speed up faster later. Brian builds wealth. Howdy from the past. Yes, it is 8:20 in the morning where I'm at. Almost time to take a nap before I go to the beach. Question for Dion on mortgage. Freedom Works. I got a bunch of questions. He kept hitting enter. Chipmunk mode engaged. Brian, nice. Okay, Freedom Works. 559 interest only for 5 years. Or 638 amortized, both at 6.9 interest rates. 40-year ARM. Well, I don't like ARMs. Which do you like better? I want fixed rate debt. I don't like interest only. Although interest only might make sense as long as there's no balloon payment. It's just interest only. And then if you ever sell, how long a term are they willing to go? So all of my debt right now is 30-year fixed rate debt, no ARMs. I'll do 40 or 50-year loans if they're offered at fixed rate amounts. The one 50-year product I heard talked about was a 5-year fixed, which means adjustable, not my thing. So in that case, I'm not going 50. I'll stay 30 fixed. So my goal is always fixed rate debt. Fire and forget and never think about it again unless interest rates drop so much it makes sense to refinance. Not pull money out, not add debt to the existing asset, but improve the debt. on the existing asset. Nice. So hope that helps frameworks. Yeah, I wouldn't have a preference unless I can get fixed rate debt. Not really interested in interest only because those usually come with a balloon payment or something. But there you go. Closing. So copper, howdy. Closing on my second fourplex on Thursday, taking as much of your advice as I can. Hope to close on a duplex in January. Awesome. Cool. Congratulations. Hope the fourplex goes well for you. Sounds great. Fourplexes have a huge impact. I started with duplexes. My first three rental purchase properties were duplexes, and then I got a fourplex. Thanks for the LLC advice. Going to hold off on it for now. But there you go. Dungeon Dojo. What's the most common mistake you see long-time investors still making? Adding debt to existing assets, expecting rents to continue to go up forever and price expenses to not go up fast. So when people go, oh, my insurance doubled. What do I do? No, you should expect your insurance is going to double. It's going to double again in 3 or 4 years. It does every 3 or 4 years. It's normal. So don't add debt. The recycling capital. So here's who I believe should do that. There are people who should make an appreciation play. There are people who should recycle capital. There are people who should gamble on meme coins when it's a very small percentage of your portfolio and you're not in aggressive growth mode. When you're in aggressive growth mode, you should focus on one asset class and master it. Once you have a net worth in the 5, 10 plus million and you're financially free, work is completely optional, and you've mastered your asset class, and sometimes money builds up. Zuber took 1% of his net worth, put it into crypto. I took 1% of my net worth and bought Tesla when it went on sale earlier this year, and it's up 94% from when I bought it. So does that mean I'm good at stocks? No. I took 1%, a tiny little amount. I dollar cost averaged $1,000 a day until I hit 30, which is about a $3 million net worth. So 1%. If it drops to zero, I will make a video about it and laugh. If it doubles as soon as I hit the capital gains mark and I've owned it for a year, I'm selling it all, won't own any more stocks. So what a lot of people would do in my position, right? Gross value of properties over 7 million, gross debt a little less than 1.5 million. I want to be at 50% levered debt. So what a lot of people would do is go pull out money and get to 50% debt. No, I'm going to buy the next couple of properties more levered. So that my levered position gets closer to 50%. I'm not going to add debt to satisfy a goal. I'm going to buy properties with more debt because adding debt doesn't increase my levered depreciation schedule. Buying a property with debt increases my levered appreciation, my levered depreciation, and some cash flow if I'm buying right, even if it's break even for the first year or two. 3 of my deals were break even deals. And how many times have you heard everybody on BiggerPockets or in the real estate investing world scream, oh, I got to get this return year one? I'm like, no, I want a property that has the aspects that attract my tenants to keep them long term. That is single family houses. I want to own single family houses. And in my market, they don't cash flow. So I adjust and I want to buy small multifamily as similar to single family houses as possible. That means side by side when possible, not over under. Fenced yards, separate, pet friendly, good parking, washer dryer hookups, garages, preferably in the middle, but not all of them are. So I've got this list of criteria. If I check off enough of those boxes, I'll buy another break even deal. I'm totally fine with it because I'm looking at keeping tenants long term. Matt, the lumberjack landlord, if he had made it this far into my video, his little eye would be twitching right now. But we invest differently because there's no one right way. I'll be the first to admit his portfolio is more than 10 times the size of mine. His net worth is more than 10 times the size of mine. His cash flow is more than 10 times the size of mine. But he has 19 kids under 5. He's still got to raise them. My kids are older and out of the house, and I'm in retirement, travel, and scuba mode. We have different lives that have different goals. Neither one of us is right or wrong. His situation's probably better financially, but I wasn't looking for best or better. I was looking for the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units. The superpower is knowing what enough is. Sorry, the question was disjointed. Don't worry, Freedom Works. I think I got to it. So yeah, Dungeon Dojo, adding debt. That'd be the most common mistake I think that like long-term investors are making because they've got all this appreciation. So do I. Never done a HELOC, never done a cash out refinance, never done a sale for a 1031. I'm selling one, but it has nothing to do with the math. It's I don't want to own in Kitsap County. I don't want to own in Port Orchard. I don't want to own that far from the rest of my properties. Uh, Math plays, I'll make a bunch of money from the burr. It's part of it, but it's like this much. Just like the cash flow on my rentals is important. Like I didn't want to lose money, but it's this much of a 20-point criteria. Greetings from Brazil. Howdy. Nice. Uh, Angel Ray. Who handles lawn care on your side-by-side duplexes? Each tenant handles their own section, which is clearly defined in the lease. The only place, well, there's two places that it's handled. Where I live, I hire a guy because I didn't retire to do work. Everybody's like, oh, you could save money and do your own lawn. No, I could save money and retire and goof off. So I actually had a lawn guy go there the other day and I needed to check and make sure I paid him. He would have texted me if I didn't. I'm pretty sure I paid him right then. Um, my fourplex doesn't have clearly defined areas for lawns to belong to units. So I have a service that does that. And I just do it monthly. In Washington, that works. You can take a few months off in the winter, but I do it monthly so that the service that's doing it when in the summer, when it needs more work, balances out for the year, keeps them working when they're usually not. But all the duplexes in the single family house, it's in the lease, tenants take care of it. What is normal for your area? Do that. Greetings from Brazil. Nice. There we go. Dungeon Dojo. What do you see as benefits of going with a local lender versus national or vice versa? Never cared or asked or thought about it. I gave my order of operations large bank because their criteria is the same, then hit a bunch of others once I'm under contract and then give them a chance to match it. So I don't care if it's local. Now, here's the difference. I only have 6 conventional loans in my name. You can have up to 10. So up to 10 conventional loans, I'm say this very clearly because my mom said, when you don't have something nice to say, speak clearly. I want my lenders to hate my guts. Up to 10 conventional loans, every lender that I work with, and it was my first lender who taught me how to do the shop for the best rates. They know I'm going to shop rates. They know that if somebody else currently has a better product, they're going to lose my business. So they have to offer me the best they can. They don't like that. That's extra work for them, but they want the business, so they'll do the extra work. I have had one lender say, I'm not going to work with you if you're going to shop rates. Great, because that means you have a terrible loan product and I don't want to work with you. So nice meeting you. Uh, Once you get to 10 and you're in the Matha lumberjack landlord's realm or Zuber's realm, they have a relationship with their lender. Now it might be either the broker for the national, that's a really good broker, right? I had a really good one. I've actually followed her to the different brokerages that she went to, and I always try to see if she can either match or beat the price. And Matt has a relationship, I believe, with a local bank where they'll make loan products for him. So where are you at in your investing? If you're building your 10 conventional loans in your name, make them compete. It's not like that relationship is going to continue past conventional loans into DSCR, asset-based portfolio, or all of the type of lending that's going to happen after you don't have the option of those conventional loans. And you can do more conventional loans in your name than 10. So the lumberjack landlord did this. There was a period of time after the crash when you were allowed to have 4 conventional loans in your name, not 10. They dropped it to 4. I'm an idiot. I paid off a property to take the fourth mortgage away and then add another. That was my plan. That was stupid. That's how I lost $1 million. Matt got to 4 and then house hacked and then house hacked. And he house hacked 9 times and he got several conventional loans by house hacking because there's no limit to how many conventional loans you can have as long as you satisfy the 1 year intent to occupy clause in a conventional loan that you own or occupy. So there's even a way around that. But once you get to the point where you're building a relationship, that's when it matters. Maybe local would win out over national unless you had a really good broker. Because the one I worked with works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Text 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday. I have a letter of whatever you call it, um, pre-approval or whatever you submit with your offer within an hour. Now, I've never done 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, but I have done Saturday afternoon or holiday, and she worked. So that mattered to me more than the bank being local or national. Nice. Rob, don't get quote for a deck. Just do what Millennial Mike does and call Hyder. There you go. Freedom works. Dion, did you say if there was 1,000-year mortgages, you would sign up for it? Yes, I would sign up for perpetual mortgages. I don't care. There was a study done by Freddie Mac from 1970 to 2024, so a 54-year study. 90% of equity comes from appreciation, not pay down. I don't care about pay down. Could, I could borrow $1 million on a property, keep it for the rest of my life. Who cares? My kids inherit it with $1 million owed on it. Who cares? Because that $1 million property in 20, 30, 40, 50, 500 years is going to be worth 5, 6 million. Who cares if you sell it and you have to give $1 million to pay off the loan? You made 4 or 5 million on the appreciation. Yeah, those are exaggerated numbers, but think about it now. Think of everybody complaining about the boomers. I'm Gen X. Everybody's complaining about the boomers. In a few years, everybody's going to be blaming Gen X because we'll have the money. Then everybody will blame the millennials. So everybody gets to line up and get their time in the limelight. Now I'm answering that text. That is my daughter saying she loves me. Yeah, that's cool. Happens once in a while. Once more than 1,000-year mortgage. So I absolutely don't care about paying off mortgages. Paying one off cost me $1 million. I paid off $121,000 on a mortgage in a year where I could have bought another fourplex when I did buy one with a $109,000 down payment. So I could have bought another fourplex. That's appreciated since 2020 over $1 million. I'm losing $1 million. I don't mind having a paid off property. Feels good. But I would have liked to have $1 million in net worth and the cash flow that comes from 4 more units, more than having the cash flow from the one paid off. I increased my income by my cash flow by about $1,000, but even that was principal pay down partially. Whereas 4 new units would have been now $4,000 plus a month. I don't have a unit right now that doesn't make $1,000 a month. So what's better, $4,000 and $1 million in net worth, or a paid off property to improve cash flow by $1,000 a month? That's what the same amount of money did. Um, yeah, 1,000-year mortgage, absolutely. The interest only, I think I'm almost okay as long as it didn't have a balloon payment. It was just a forever loan. You always owe the amount that you borrowed because you can only pay off what you borrow. There's no limit to how much it can appreciate. So I would absolutely do that. Can you talk about the hockey stick effect? Yes. If I was asked in advance, I would even have the charts up. There was a question, Curtis, the PE turned RE, made a statement. That's not the years. Curtis said, I'm 3 years in to investing, but why does my cash flow not feel like it's 3 years in to my timeline? So Curtis asked this question, which prompted me to make these charts. Got too many charts on my screen. I said, well, Curtis, at year one, you have zero. And if your goal is to be around me at year 10, 20,000 a month in cash flow, I had 21,000 at year 12 when I retired. I don't remember what year 10 was. It was probably 19-ish or so. But this is what you expect. You expect to get to year three. That means you should be over $5,000 a month in cash flow because you're 1/3 of the way into your 10-year journey. So you should be 1/3 of the way into your cash flow. Makes total sense, right? This is expectation. But what really happens is the hockey stick growth. Here's me at year three. I didn't even pass $1,000 a month yet. Because in the beginning, you don't have a lot of levers. You learn the binder strategy and you do a massive rent increase. It hits one tenant or two tenants. In year 9 or 9.5, when you use the binder strategy, it hits 15 tenants. So what's better? Let's say you have two tenants at year three. I had a single family house and I had the other side of the duplex rented out. So I use the binder strategy. Let's say I get a $300 increase on each. That's a $600 a month increase. So I can increase my rents $600 a month. Now my expenses when doing the binder probably went up. Insurance went up, taxes went up, cost of materials went up. So I'm not making $600 a month in profit. The binder increase is gross, but the expenses also increased. So my increase in profit was probably $300 or $400. That's nice. It feels really good. But in year 9, I had at the time 14 units. What is four? I'm not going to do the math, but 14 times $300 a month. per month. And then talk about rent control kicking in 2022 and 2023 and doing the binder strategy again and saying another $250 increase across the board, 18 or 17 units because I live in one. That's the hockey stick growth. In year three, when you call your insurance company and you say, hey, I want to raise my deductible so I can lower the premium, I had in year three, I had two properties. So my insurance probably went down maybe $40 a month per property. That's $80 a month. Do you feel that? But now with eight properties, when I go to steadily and I use the Michael Zuber one rental at a time code to get, a deal look at them to have them look at my rentals, and I decrease insurance $40 per property, 40 times eight is more of an impact than 40 times two. So rent increases. I've also had, when you have eight properties, you have more opportunity to refinance to better rates. Refinance one or two properties, that's an impact, but refinance my entire portfolio in 2020, refinance to a lower rate, huge impact. So hockey stick, and everyone right now is thinking, because I've said it, we had rent control hit, we had COVID hit, we had all of these things. That's why I'm so lucky. No, everything like that is going to happen in the next 10 years. There will be an insurance boom because of fires and floods. There will be migration of population. There will be UBI coming out. There will be AI taking jobs. So Section 8 will explode. There will be from 2025 to 2035, there will be all these reasons where in 2035, people are telling you you're only financially free because you invested in the last 10 years, so they shouldn't even start. That's what people are telling me today. The next 10 years are going to happen, and you won't get the hockey stick growth unless you put in the first few years that suck and are very slow so that you can get there. Hopefully that answered the question, Jack. Appreciate it. And thanks, Curtis, for asking or making the comment. We were on a ferry. We took a ferry to Seattle to have lunch, and Curtis just said, yeah, I'm 3 years into my journey, but my cash flow doesn't feel 3 years into this. But he's also living for free on his second house hack. And the cash flow is there. And his appreciation is happening, and his pay down is happening, and he has the tax benefits. 10-year journey, Curtis. In your position, you might do it sooner. Unless you start dating. Then maybe add some time. Josh. Hang on. I move my chat. I see some good questions too. I want to get to them. Jason has to run. Oh, you guys have the other meeting. Sorry. No members call today, so we're not doing any of that. Where did my chat go? Can you talk about the hockey stick? Thank you. Freedom Works. Just signed today for the purchase of another duplex. I'm kind of really stuck on duplexes right now. Me too. I love them. I love because it can spread your properties out. They're not all together. They pull tenants from different sources. Jack, I don't fully understand your examples in other videos. Hopefully that broke it down for you. Josh, investing in purchase of the first fourplex, I can't seem to get cash on cash or yield on fourplex to be better than single family rentals. I own 8 single families and I'm out overestimating the maintenance or just missing something, one multifamily. So every market is very different. In my state, in my market, Pearson, Thurston counties, Washington, single family houses haven't cash flowed. I have not seen one. You could probably burr your way into it or rehab your way into it, but I'm not that guy. I'm going to buy rent ready or already occupied properties as a preference. But I have a friend who owned it in Washington and she sold and purchased in Ohio. She sold small multifamily in Washington and purchased single family houses where she was buying in Ohio because that market they made sense. Your market, they might just make more sense. I don't buy the property that makes the most sense. I buy the property that checks off all the boxes, has the best yield. So I'd buy a single family if it ever cash flowed better than a small multifamily. The one thing that does kind of lean me towards if I could buy a single family house and the cash on cash return was 5%, and I could buy a fourplex and the cash on cash return was 5%. Is the down payment the same? Right? You're putting $30,000 down here or $100,000 down here. I'd rather have the cash flow from 100,000. I'd rather move 100,000 into there. So if the cash flow is the same, the yield's the same, everything is exactly the same. Let's go forward 1 year. You buy a single family house, the rent's $1,000. You buy a fourplex and the rents are $800. They pay less because a single family has its own yard or whatever. So your rents are less on the fourplex. Round numbers, probably double that where you're at. But your yield is the same because you're getting 4 times 8 versus 1 times 1,000. This mortgage is only this much. This mortgage is this much. Your yield is the same. Go forward 1 year. You raise the rents $50. Use the binder strategy, maybe you get more. Maybe rents go up more in your market. 1,000 becomes 1,050. The fourplex got a $200 increase. Owning the small multifamily over years will have a greater impact than owning the single family over years because you're raising one person's rent versus four people's rents. Now, the single family house's rent might go up faster, but it's not going to go up four times faster. So I prefer duplexes. My fourplex is phenomenal. I can't believe the amount of money that it makes. Rents are a little bit above 8,000 a month now, and the mortgage is still, well, it was 3,100. It's like 3,300 now. So that's one place kicking off a decent amount of cash flow with one roof, one foundation, one property line, four water heaters, four garage doors. Like, so that it's not all scaled. Um, yeah. What deal do you find next that's the best? That I've wanted to buy another fourplex. I'm not under contract. I have an offer on a fourplex. The cart before the horse there. Um, I've wanted a fourplex since 2020. I've said I want to buy another fourplex. I want it to cost at least $1 million because I want my properties to cost more. I wish every one of my properties costs more. Everybody wants to buy a cheaper property. You're looking at it wrong. That means you have to buy more properties to reach financial freedom. That means it was less value when you purchased it. That means it's going to take more units to get the same amount of cash flow. I want them to cost more. I want them to make sense. I want to get the yield, right? But I want more. So I wanted to buy a fourplex. Well, in 2021, I ran across a good duplex and I purchased it. In 2023, I ran across a good duplex and I purchased it. In 2026, my goal is to buy a fourplex. I've got an offer out on one right now that it's 45% chance they're probably going to take my offer after some back and forth. Um, if it doesn't, and I see a good duplex that pops up, even though my goal is a fourplex, I'll buy the duplex. What's the best deal? If you see a single family house that pops up and it's a great deal, or you see a fourplex that pops up, or anywhere in between, don't forget the missed asset class that most investors forget is that house with ADU. If you can find one where there's a house with an ADU, you get single family lending, true single family lending, but you have two units. Be looking for all of them. And then which is the best deal that pops up? Marland. Contrary to the norm, I just lowered my insurance about $100 a month, raised the deductible a wee bit. Thanks. Yeah, nice. That is exactly what I do. I have my deductibles as high as possible to get the premiums down. Now, I didn't do that in the beginning. I had a low deductible because I didn't have the good reserves and I didn't have the cash flow. But once I had reserves and now that I have the cash flow, I don't want to make an insurance claim for almost anything. Fork and flow. What is your plan for rental due increases with rent limits? So Washington, where there is no R, will allow 7% a year plus inflation. And I've already let my tenants know. I let them know at the beginning of 2025. I said, look, this is going to committee like it did last year. If rent control doesn't pass, rents stay the same in 2025. However, if this bill passes and we can't make adjustments in the future, if my expenses change, I'm going to have to do 7% this year. Every tenant said, okay, they understood. It passed. All my rents went up 7% this year. They're going to go up 7% next year. And every time I say that, I don't want to use a bad word or call somebody a name, moron, idiot, goober, all of the things that my family would use as a familial term of love, comes in the chat and says, well, you'll outpace rents. Bull crap. Every time a landlord has a tenant turnover in a rent-controlled state, rent's going to go up 30 or 40% from where they had it. They'll leave it empty for months to find a good tenant. They're not going to take the risk on a small rent increase. It's been proven in market after market after market after market, period. You have the data. You can't say, oh, you would outpace it. No, my 7% will barely keep up. It won't even get me close. It will make me stupid rich. I was doing 5% every other year and totally fine with it. From 2013 to 2020, that's what I did, 5% every other year, no issues. Since 2020, I've done the binder a couple of times because we had some black swan events and I was comfortable to tell my tenants, no rent increase this year. We'll do 5% next year like we always were in the past, unless rent control passes. Now I'm going to make tens of thousands more this year, probably crossing the 100,000s in profit in a year or two. Thank you, rent control. I feel really bad for my tenants. I feel really bad for everybody who's a renter, not just my tenants. My kids are renters because I can't get them interested in real estate. I have to come on YouTube to find the people who will get interested so I can have these kind of conversations. So my kids will be impacted by rent control. They will pay more for rents. Great question. FreedomWorks. Have you ever borrowed money for absolutely no reason at all? No. I am not a fan of debt unless it adds levered appreciation, levered depreciation. So I have not borrowed money for no reason at all. An example would be in 2021, before retiring, I had the lumberjack landlord and Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time do a deep dive in my portfolio because I'm thinking, yeah, I feel like I can retire. Cash flow is great. What am I missing? I don't know. Let me go to these pros that have more experience than me, bigger portfolios, have them do this. They both looked at my portfolio. They didn't like the paid off property, and they said you should do a 50% loan to value on that property to have dry kindling for opportunity in the future. That was their only advice. I was looking for, oh, you're totally missing this and that's going to blow up in your face. And none of that came up. So I retired in 2022. Them having the grace to do a portfolio review for me helped give me the confidence to walk away from my job. So I hope to pay them back over time. I've tried by getting them as much as I can on BiggerPockets and promoting their content and being here for them as a friend. But I didn't borrow the money even when more experienced, better investors were telling me that's what I should do. So not only have I not done it for no reason whatsoever, I didn't do it when the advice was to do it. I'm not a fan of adding debt. I'm a fan of acquiring properties with debt, but not adding it for no reason. And then it's like events. I think they were trying to do silk events. Sounds like an adult name. Took back a message to make me lose sleep forever and ever and wonder what was said. Jason had to run for that meeting. Ciao, Marlon. Thanks to the weed taxes here in Colorado, we have brand new libraries. I like to get books there for the steep price of free. However, I do love audiobooks. So, your library, because they do this in Washington where there is no R, you can do audiobooks online from your library. I don't know why they do it, but you can check it out, download it, and use it. No one else can check it out until you undownload it. Uh, and before that, in the dinosaur days when I was a truck driver, before getting into law enforcement, I used to go to our library. I knew everybody by name, and I would get a stack of actual books on disc and old enough to do books on tape and take them to work with me. Like they thought I was schizophrenic because I would have the great lectures, like how a star is formed and how iron 56 is the highest element that can be created in the compression of making a star, to Stephen King, to like just a broad verse of whatever I could listen to because I'm an avid reader. I now have a rotation. It goes fantasy, suspense, finance, personal growth. Rotate to go through. Never one too long, but bounce back and forth. Uh, yeah, I did like free too. Now I like ownership. I actually donated. I had several hundred books. There's over 400 books in the Forgotten Realms, about 130 books in Dragonlance. I had almost all of them. I had an extensive collection. Had all the Stephen King books, which I hate him, but so many people read Stephen King. I like to be able to hold a conversation when those topics come up. I had all the Dean Koontz books. I actually like his writing. Uh, Donated all of them to the local bookstore. They said, "Oh, you have all this credit. You can buy all these books." I'm like, "No, I travel. All my books are on my phone." I think I literally have, I mean, I have all the D&D game books. Those don't count. But I have like four books sitting on a shelf. I have all, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Set for Life, One Rental at a Time, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires. I actually have my own book because of hubris. But I got rid of all the other ones because I like to be able to move easy and I like to be able to travel easy and bring everything with me. So I have One Rental at a Time, the book, right? I have several of them to give them away, but I have the Audible, which is weird because I narrated it. I have, but I want to support Zuber. I also have, uh, paperback and Audible version of that. Dungeon Dojo. Wait, if you're house hacking, you can keep stacking conventional loans above 10. Yes, that's why we hang out. We learn things I don't know to make videos about. But that is one of the other cheat codes to life is that there is no 10 cap on a house hack. So hopefully that helps you going forward. Freedom. I want the name of your current using lender, please. Spencer Buck he changed mortgages, and Katrina, I don't know her last name. It's called Katrina. And she changed mortgages too. If you email me, if you have my email, I'll connect you with either one of them. They're my first go-tos now. First, it's what will a large bank go to? So go to any Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase to see what you qualify for. But those are the lenders I've worked with on the last 7 mortgages or refinances. So they work at different places. I don't even think they know each other. Dungeon Dojo. Yeah, we got that. Marlon. Solar is a no-go. Agreed. Tenants do like the lower utilities, but it will never recoup. I have panels on a 20-year lease. with fortune to go, I would not do it again or actually pay for them. Nope, I won't do them, and I don't want to buy one that has them. Part of my concessions would be remove it, put a new roof on it. Uh, but I live in Washington. There's like 4 days a year they would work. Bradley's Taylor. Mortgage brokers are the best options in most cases. They can price loans with all the lenders they are signed up with and find the best rates. They are the best option, but they are the best option when their rates are being competed. So my first broker taught me this. She said, I can't go to my boss and say, I really like Dion. Can we give him a better rate? But she said, if you bring me just an email from someone else saying this is what they'll lend, what their rates are, what their cost to buy it down is, if you bring that to me, I can bring it to my boss and say, this is what we need to match to keep the business. So always compete, even if, like, I've had 3 roofs done by Clearview Exteriors in Yelm, Washington. So they work in Pierce, Thurston counties where my properties are. They even would go to Kitsap, where my other one is. And Scott, the owner, super nice guy, answers texts. He's done repairs. After doing roofs, he actually did one repair, wouldn't take any money, let me tip the guy. But um, he's gotten 2 of my brother's roofs now. I've recommended several people to him. Scott knows I'm gonna have a roof done probably end of next year. I have one that's probably ready. I should be proactive on it. I'm gonna get 3 quotes. Scott's always been the best price and he's got a great crew and he does great work, but I am gonna get 3 quotes. Now, if somebody else beats it, I will take that quote to Scott and say, why are they so cheap? And he'll point out it's inferior product. Well, I look at their reviews, or the type of work they're doing negates the warranty, or he'll point out something I don't know because he's in the business. He might go, that's a phenomenal price. That company has a good reputation. I did that when I was a tree estimator, and you should go with it. He will understand. He could go, that's a great price. It's good material. I'll match their price. I don't know if I'd do that. I don't know. Maybe I'd match the price. We'd see. He might just get the business because honor goes a long way. We'll see. But that's what's going to happen next year. Um, Rob, I do look forward to being blamed because I have money. There you go. Me too. Bradley Sayer, lean the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, LLPA matrix, learn, sorry, wow, uh, to get the best rates. There you go. Peter Liver, I wonder what Cody Davis would say about the hockey stick. He has agreed to it, and then in hockey stick mode, he's also right sizing. I think he would have some nuance and say he grew all of this stuff so that as it grows, he can fix his debt, get rid of partners in a good way. Partners are happy to have partnered with him, and they got what they wanted when they left. So he's divesting himself of partnerships, fixing his long-term debt, going from a couple hundred units to like 140 or something, and right sizing his portfolio. So I won't put words in his mouth or take words out of his mouth, but I believe he knows hockey stick growth is a real thing, and he is enjoying it right now too. And he's probably coming up on the first few years of it. Steele, how do you pull out of your 401k to invest in rentals? Do you have to pay it back? That's a great question. I actually recommend you don't do that. I didn't do it for 7 years. I owned rentals for longer than 7 years because I rented out my house. But closing on the first duplex, it was 7 years later before I did anything with 401k. Most companies, and it could be 401k requirement, it could be company requirement, will let you take out up to $15,000 for the down payment on an owner-occupied house. Some companies say it has to be your first one, so you can't already own a property. Some, it just has to be owner-occupied, so you have to ask your 401k provider what they'll allow. And sometimes it's what they understand is what they'll allow more than what the real rules are. But I don't suggest doing it in the beginning because in the beginning, you're going to make most of your mistakes. I made a ton. I lost money the first year. So if I did anything faster, I would have just lost more, made more mistakes before I realized what was happening. Save up the money, buy a property, find a good lease, screen tenants, maintain tenants, build your handyman list, get your systems in place, figure out the things you don't know, the things you're making mistakes on, things you might not learn from a video, but you will learn from owning a rental. And then once you have a few and you get your legs under you, so an example is the financial firefighter, Marcus Shiro in Hawaii, who does a lot of live streams, a lot of good guests, uh, bought 14 rentals in 2 years by taking all his retirement money out. And he either borrowed against it and did it, and then you have to pay it back with interest, or he emptied them out, paid in 2020, when I emptied mine out, I just paid the taxes. I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna pay the taxes, take the money, buy a triplex. Make way more money. The tax benefits in a rental are 10 times as good as they are in a retirement account. Once you have your investing legs under you, The financial firefighter will even say he might not have should have gone so fast because he bought 14 in 2 years. Then he had some evictions and some turnovers all happening at the same time. And then he's taken several years to stabilize to where he's just now closing on new properties. Very successful at what he's doing, very good at what he's doing, very clear about the mistakes he made. I'm very clear about the mistakes I made. My first year, I've listed them so many times, I could do it like it's a mantra. Here's everything I think I tried to do wrong. But after owning rentals for several years, then you have to think, okay, do I borrow against it, which means you'll have to pay yourself back with interest? That's a thing. Do I empty it out, pay the penalty, pay the taxes, and buy a rental? At some point, if you have a good enough deal, that can make sense. Or do you do what I think is one of the dumbest things out there? In case it's in the comments, I'm not insulting anybody who suggested this after you asked, is that you buy rentals in your retirement account and you call it a self-directed retirement account. You can't depreciate, you can't pay yourself cash flow, you can't self-manage, you can't house hack, you lose all of these benefits that I really enjoy. But you can do it in your retirement account to have some tax benefits. Makes sense for some people that are going to retire when they're so old they don't have the ability to enjoy it, and they make more money from their job than they care about their rentals. So sure, that's an option, but it's not a good one in my opinion. It's definitely not a good one for me. Your situation might be different. But there you go. Yeah, you have to pay it back, or you can pay the fine, the 10% penalty if you're not 59 and a half, or you have to pay the taxes. Like events. Own 5 free and clear properties, own a decent amount of land in rural area, build fourplex or develop a trailer park. I'm not a builder or developer. That ADU guy might have some more advice on that. Matt, the lumberjack landlord, would have more advice on that. I hate the idea of going to your city and begging for permission to improve your own land. So I'm not a builder. I hate waiting for permits. I hate dealing with contractors and inspections. That's not a me thing. I personally, if I owned a bunch of land, like my brother's got 5 acres that is zoned for an RV park, he's got a house and an ADU on it and is never going to do anything else. Raises cows and sheep and fills the freezer with beautiful food. I'm not a builder. So if you want the advice on to build and how to best do it, it would be Matt, the lumberjack landlord, maybe Zuber. He did 56 flips. He's done some builds, but that ADU guy is a good resource for that. Not me. I did a burr and made hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm never going to do another one. Stupidest thing I've done outside of marriage ever. Yeah. So if you own the land outside of rural, can you sell it and can you buy a place that just makes money? That takes less work, where you're not creating a job. Do you love the idea of building? Project managing, does that excite you? Then go for it. Like, see, that's not right for me or you. It's what's right for you. Good question. Good position to be in. Like, tons of people never own one rental. Josh, thank you for your feedback. Very grateful. Also love your chart. You could add appreciation on a second axis would show an interesting view combined with the hockey stick. Yeah, no kidding. I guess the reason I haven't done that is because I don't look at it. I've never touched the appreciation. But yeah, it's a factor. Oh, that's another thing I could make a chart and rub David's face in. We love each other. He is in Texas trying not to get killed by everything now that's trying to kill him, and I'm in Thailand enjoying all of the dives he's missing. A scuba dive is like a dance. Every one you don't take, you can never get back. Tito Fuentes. Now I want some Tito's. Is that your actual name? Yeah, Tito Fuentes. Howdy. Sorry if you've answered already, just joined. How do you determine if your market is single family or duplex homes? So I want single family. So my preference would be single family homes. But yield is the calculation you go by. I don't want to own a certain number of doors. I don't want a certain amount of cash flow per door. I want the right amount of yield per door. And all of the yields for single family in my market are negative. If you're in San Diego, they're probably also negative. That's where Ryan and Rob and a few other people live. And so they invest at a distance. Ryan's literally going to Gary to work on some of the properties that he's investing in there at a distance and doing really well with crypto. But in Washington State, at least in the counties where I invest, single family houses don't pencil out on math. Now they make the most sense on all the other boxes. I own one single family house. I owned it for 10 years before I rented it out because I bought it white picket fence to raise the kids, then went through a divorce, kept it in the divorce, um, and a decade later moved out and rented it out. It made some money after decades of appreciation of me owning it. Had I purchased it then, it wouldn't have made any sense. So, are you willing to buy a single family house in my market, wait 10 years for it to make profit? Go for it. There are people who will do that with 1% of their net worth. They want to make an appreciation play. Fine. But not when you're in growth mode and not when it's 1%, when it's like 100% of my investing. So when you run the numbers, what will they rent for? And the yield is, it's a very simple math equation. And I'm going to give you just a second to get a pen and paper ready to take a note, because here's the math equation for calculating your yield. Annual profit divided by cost to acquire. I'll repeat it. Annual profit divided by cost to acquire. Annual profit is all the money coming in minus your expenses. So principal, interest, taxes, insurance, anything else you have. If you have an HOA, I don't buy in those, but if you have an HOA, and future expenses, how much are you setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy? So principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and expenses, all that set aside. What's left is profit times 12 gives your annual profit. Cost to acquire is not just your down payment. It's down payment, closing costs, cost to make it rent ready, all of that. How much did it cost to make this place rentable? That's your cost to acquire. Annual profit divided by cost to acquire gives you a yield. And like I said, in my market, they're zero or less. No, not even zero. You lose money still. So I bought duplexes because the price isn't much different. When I started investing, a single family house was around $300,000 and a duplex was around $300,000. Now, because of growth, single family houses are about $550,000 and duplexes are around $600,000. So it costs a little bit more, but you have 2 units rented out. So while the rent isn't exactly 200%, because if a house rents out for 1,000, the duplex each side would rent out for 950. So you would get 1,900 instead of doubling it to 2,000. So they make sense. And not all of them. 80% of houses and duplexes all lose money. 100% of the houses I've looked at would have lost money. 20% of the duplexes can either break even or make some money. And now you have competition driving in there, which drives up the price. So you have to study your local market for a good amount of time to figure out which one makes the most sense. Freedom works. Stuff comes and goes. Money is forever. Cash flow is forever. Love it. Jack Stewart, how hard will it be to convince you to play D&D in Vegas? Not very. Not very. It also depends on who plays. Yeah. Yeah, quick question. If a multifamily unit didn't have an over-the-range microwave, did you usually no, provide rip them out? I actually just did that. I got pictures on my phone. Over-the-range microwave ripped out and replaced with a hood. Get rid of those microwaves. Tenants can have that if they want. But no, hood replace, less things to repair and maintain on my own. Yeah. So good question. Good example. Don't provide them, get rid of them. I don't provide washer and dryers either. I provide the refrigerator, the stove, the dishwasher. I don't think there's any other appliances that I supply. I do have, air quotes, a washer and dryer that a previous tenant left that the tenant is welcome to use while they take a month or two because they're moving in and they want to get their own unit. But it's not mine. I don't maintain it. I don't fix it. And I've had tenants use that for a month or two till they got their own units, but not the microwave. What is normal for your market? Do that. Freedom Works. I really appreciate everyone on here, and especially you, Dion. You're the man. Thank you. You're the man or woman. You're the human. Steve Newen, can you break down your monthly gross income expenses and net per month? How were you able to keep your expenses so low? Time. I wish I had a singing voice. I would go, time is on your side. Fallen's a great movie. Answer your question. Time is how you keep your expenses low. Don't tap equity. Don't add debt to existing assets. But cash flow breakdown. And this is from beginning of 2025. So these numbers have changed in my favor. Beginning of 2025, because I had it in a whiteboard I did a couple videos, so I haven't memorized. A little more than $35,000 a month in gross rents coming in. So now it would be like just under 38,000. Yeah, but I'll go with 35,000 coming in. Mortgages are 9,000 going out because I have never done a HELOC, cash out refinance, or added debt to an existing property. I did 5% down once and then 20% down every time. And then I bought one all cash and paid one off. So I have two paid off, six properties with mortgages. Mortgages are a little over 9,000. It was under 9,000 before, but insurance and taxes went up. So it's a little over 9,000. 15% of 35,000 would be around 5,000 a month that I would set aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. I set aside specifically $5,150 because 5150 is the cop code for crazy, which I identify as. So 5150 being a set aside out of 35,000 minus 9,000 leaves me a little over $21,000 a month. It's actually more than that now because of thank you rent control. It's probably around 23,400 or something after setting aside for repairs and maintenance, which also went up because it's a percentage base. But to keep your expenses low, I as I built reserves, I raised the deductibles on my insurance so I could lower the premiums. I bought properties that had two bedrooms and a den on each side of the duplex. When the tenants turned over, I had a closet. The dens became bedrooms. So now I have three bedrooms each side for rentals. Uh, Binder strategy keeps rents where I want it. Rent control is helping with that, making me increase when I wouldn't. What else have I done to increase income, decrease expenses? I added storage sheds on one, charged tenants for storage. I haven't done any other value add. I've had fences to do privately fenced pet friendly yards. Don't know if that increased rents, but it got me more rents on a tenant turnover. Yeah, it's like a bunch of things stacked together. And then time. Let's say, so I invested $320,000 from my W-2 and about $300,000 from rent. So I'm about $620,000 invested to make $240,000 a year in profit. Sounds great. So let's say you had $620,000 and you went out and bought eight properties just like I have. You'd probably have almost zero cash flow. I have 240,000, you'd have almost zero. Same amount in money invested, same number of properties. You'd probably have some yield if you hunted for the right deals in the right market. You'd probably have some cash flow. But I bought one and owned it for 12 years now. I bought another, have had it for 10 years. I bought another, have had it for 8.5 years. I bought one fourplex, had it for 5 years. A triplex, had it for 5 years now. And then I bought a duplex that I've had for, so it's owning a property. I've got, what's the cumulative on that? So 12, 22, 30, 35, 40, 43. I have 43 years of owning rentals for rent appreciation, chance to refinance, chance for value add. So if you aggregate how many levers you have to pull with how many years you have to pull the levers in, you get a lot of cash flow with low expenses. Now, if you do what everyone else does, not everyone, but most people, I've got around $5.5 million in equity. The reason I say I have $3 million in net worth is because I also factor in the cost of selling that everyone else doesn't. I would pay capital gains, depreciation, recapture. The agents would get their money. I'd have to do concessions. So I'd walk away. If I sold everything, I'd have $3 million in cash, even though I have $5.5 million in equity. How many times do you think I say this, the lumberjack landlord's eye twitches because he wants a huge portfolio. He's got 19 kids under five. He still has to raise. Mine are over 18. I don't have to do that. So he's got four, and some of them are over five now. But he's got a different mindset than me. He wants bigger, right? I didn't. I wanted the right cash flow from leased units. So he would have many times pulled the equity out, added units, and at the 15 or 20 year mark, he'd be like he is 10 times my size, 10 times the cash flow. I don't want that. There is no more free than free. My kids will inherit more. Who cares? I won't be here for that. And what did they ever do for me anyway? Except blame me for everything. Because some of them went to college, and that's what you do. You blame your parents for everything, and you get indoctrinated. But time, back to that Emperor's Groove, the squirrel stole it. Yeah, add time, don't add debt. Let time and inflation do its thing. Inflation will make you rich as long as you own levered assets. If you own assets, you keep up with inflation. If you own levered assets, Inflation is your best friend. Thank you. Isaac, solar got skipped over, but I don't know if I agree. Solar, then never paying them themselves. The panels are bought outright, then costs are fixed against inflation. Original question below. Sure, I'll have to go over that. Yeah, I would not own a property with solar, no matter what market I was in and no matter what it did to the tenants' utilities. Uh, I'm going to lose 10,000 subscribers right now. Climate change is a hoax. It's bullshit. Okay, there we go. Back off the politics. My solar got skipped. Opinions on improvements such as solar. I would never do it, and I would never buy one that had it. It's damaging for the roof. It's not good for the environment. It might make you money over time. It's really hard to sell because so many investors don't want to buy it. And if you bought it all cash, they still want to buy it because now if you want to replace the roof, there's more work involved, more cost involved. Uh, yeah. So sorry if that's not the answer that you want to hear, but improvements like turn it into a bedroom, add square footage, create better parking, fenced yard so it's more pet friendly. Like there's a lot of improvements that we do that get us better rents. Solar is not one of them. Now, in a Class A market that I don't invest in, I target Class C properties. I don't want to own B. I don't want to own A. I don't want to own D. I want specifically Class C. Solar is a nightmare. No tenants care about it or want it. Class A, if you get some what I would call a yuppie that's like, I want to help the environment with my, I want a Tesla charging station in my driveway, which Julie I think had to put in at one of her places because of the new regulation. I want solar panels. I want a koi pond. Yeah, you're probably going to get more rent. And you're going to go bankrupt because the first time that there's an economic hardship, A and B move to C, lenders disappear. All of the rent decreases that happened in 2009, 10, and 11 were in Class A areas, not C. C got more demand, so rents went up, right? So there might be a market where solar works. And if that's your market, it could be a great thing. My opinion of it could also be related to being in the Pacific Northwest where you get 4 days of sunshine, right? So what works in your market? What is normal for your market? Do that. But I'm a fan of value add, not Burr. I'm not a Burr fan. I'm not a flipping fan. But owning a property and when there's tenant turnover, what can you do that will actually increase rents? It could be that LVP flooring helps, but that den now being a bedroom, being a 3 bedroom instead of a 2 bedroom is way more rent than 2 bedrooms where the den is going to get you. No one rents for an office. They rent by bedroom count and turn a bedroom into an office. Um, Storage shed, fenced yard, all of those things can increase your rents. Square footage can increase your rents. But solar, too many investors have a negative opinion, so you decrease your resaleability while maybe increasing your rentability. So there you go. Julie, my lender told me you can build a house without any permits in Texas. You could do anything until you get caught. There might be areas, maybe, but it would still be inspections, I'm sure. Jack, finally on break. Yes, Dion, thanks for explanation. Made sense. I think my problem was I was always listening to your content and hardly ever watch it. So yeah, you got to see the charts for that one. That's why I don't do the content anymore where I talk to myself because my voice is too similar, even when I'm wearing different clothes or none. So I don't do those anymore because it's too hard to listen to. You have to watch to see the role I was playing. I really enjoyed those videos. They're my favorite videos to make, but they don't work. Uh, Marcel, and I'm going to be wrapping the video up here pretty soon because it's getting to be beach time. Just bought 5 small single-family homes, going well so far. What do you think about buying property with someone else? I can do commercial side with the other is builder and can do maintenance. Um, I'm not a fan of partnerships. That doesn't mean they don't work. Just have you met people? And everyone I know who had partnerships, the I'll just quote Cody Davis, Christian Osgood, Multifamily Strategies, and the partnerships they've had. So not just their partnership together, because they're good friends, but their partnerships with all of the other partners they had. Both of them are working at divesting themselves of partnerships. So they might use it to grow, but it's not a long-term strategy because in 5 years, you might want something different than your partner does. So now you have to figure what's your exit strategy. So you're starting with that in mind and make sure you have strong LLCs when you have partnerships. I'm going to flip my script here. That's when it makes sense and get everything in writing right now while everybody's getting along. Because it's really hard to write something down when the disagreement is happening. Buying a property with somebody else, if it's a significant other, sure, but be ready for how that's going to be when you separate because Not everything is forever. Have an exit strategy. Clear, written, email back and forth how it's going to go. Co-sign with family. I've seen people do that so they can get the house hack. I moved into one of my brother's rentals so he could do an owner-occupied type thing with his HELOC there a billion years ago. What is the statute of limitations? I don't know. Longer than that was. But I stay away from commercial because I like fixed rate debt and I'm not a builder. So your question would fit you maybe, but not me. I wouldn't do any of those three things. I don't want commercial because unless I get fixed rate debt, I don't want to build. I don't like commercial because you see vacancies last 5 to 10 years, not 3 to 4 months, right? Really bad vacancy for a residential is a few months. A really bad vacancy for commercial is years or decades. And the capital that it takes to prep a commercial for a tenant to move in, even though you can put it into the rent and maybe their business fails, not my thing. And then the fixed rate debt, if you can't get that with commercial often, so it doesn't work for me. And then the partnerships, not a fan. But maybe all three of those things line up with your goals, your resources, your timeline. So your thoughts, that's my thoughts. Doesn't mean yes or no. It just means no, no, and no for me. Check. Does doing these live streams help you from going 5150 since your kids don't want to hear about real estate? It does. This is my therapy session. This is absolutely my therapy session. Not only do they not like it, but uh, they don't like to hear about it. Like they know there's a will. They know that they each get a third. They know that if they spend a penny on any of their mothers, they don't get a penny, and then the other two get the rest. Um, yeah. And then Kid City said, "Truth, you can't do that." Not sure what that was in reference to, but wish I got the timing better. Yeah, live streams help me too. And the most important thing, Jack, is, and I've said this a few times, and I'll probably be wrapping this up soon. I got the questions ending here. Imagine how amazing it is to go from my starting position at the age of 40, single parent, three kids, laid off from law enforcement, found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know about until the divorce. Like, got a job at a CDL school making $17 an hour. Life sucked at 40. There was nothing that looked like it was going to go well. And then I decided to create my own pension, start investing in real estate, gave myself a 10-year journey. And the goal wasn't even financial freedom. It was just, I want to not be a financial burden to my kids when I'm so old I can't work. And a few rentals would help with that. Well, in a decade, I reached financial freedom. The income snowball kicked in. I got much richer than I expected, much more cash flow than I expected. And now I'm financially free and can travel and scuba dive and go play on the beach all day if I feel like it. That feels amazing. I can't do it again. There's no next level of financial freedom for me to pursue. And I'm not stupid. I'm not going to give it all away so I can experience it again, right? A little long in the tooth for that, and I'm not dumb enough to do it even if I was 30, but I can experience it every time I make content that gets somebody else. An example would be Chesla. So we've been together over 10 years. It's been an open relationship. We're very clear with that. We're now engaged. There was a proposal in front of the tiger. Anybody who watches my content saw that. We've had a few breaks. There was a few years where we weren't together, but we've been together basically over a decade. There was 5 years of my investing where Chesla had I want to say 6 figures in the bank. Really good job. She was an operational change management degree. She's got two bachelors and a master's, and she's always had really good jobs. We actually met the one time in her life when she didn't. She worked for me, which is probably the third biggest mistake of her life. And so for 5 years of me working towards her financial freedom, she sat on her hands. And I'm surprised she hasn't hit me, but she could have bought rentals when I did, when rates were what they were, when prices were what they were, when we've had the appreciation that we did, when we had all of that. Finally, after 5 years of watching, she was like, all right, I'm going to buy some rentals. So she built a portfolio. She has reached financial freedom. I have helped. We've got a couple things together. I've retired her, right? So we're now retired and traveling the world together. She could have done it 5 years sooner. That's the part I'm being sarcastic about. The part I'm explaining is I got to experience her from going. She had great jobs, but she was set to work until she was in her 60s. Social Security and some retirement account was going to be her plan. But now she retired at her age, which I won't mention because you can't do that about girls, I guess. She's younger than me, not by decades, but she's younger than me. And she's retired and doesn't have to work until she's in her 50s or her 60s. That's cool. I get to experience that. When Josh reaches out and he says, "Hey, can we go to lunch? I'm from California, but I'm thinking about moving to Washington." And we go to lunch and I meet them. And a year later, they move to Washington, they buy a duplex. Today, he's closing on the signing documents for a refinance on that property. He'll be buying a new one here soon. When I meet Curtis at the local meetup, and he says, "Man, I'm living in a house hack based on everybody's recommendations, but I don't have a real bathroom. I don't have a shower where I'm at, so I use my gym membership for that." And then he buys his second house hack, and he has his own place. And I get to see that growth. I get to go to his property, help put a lock in the door because they're not very intuitive. When Alex, the accidental investor, reaches out and says, "Hey, I live really close to you. Can we go have lunch?" And then I go do a portfolio tour with him and I get to see what he's done and where he's got and where how when he's going to be able to retire. These live streams led me to all of that. So I get to experience the life sucks, it's challenging, I'm probably going to work until I die, to look at the progress each of these people. Frank and Cynthia. Cynthia's probably going to retire next year. Right? She loves her job. Who knows if she'll actually do it or not? But I talk with Frank and he tells me, "Here's the moves I'm thinking about making. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what's improved. What's for lunch." So we have these conversations. I wouldn't get to experience any of that unless I did these videos. That's why I'm here. I hope this has been a day full of amazing. I hope the questions have helped everybody. If the roofer is also the solar provider, you might have an in there. Good call. And again, maybe it's right for your market. Maybe it's right for your asset class. There will be a video that comes out on Thursday and Saturday, and there will be a live stream next Tuesday that will last as long as the questions do. I believe next Tuesday we'll probably do a members only after the live stream, and it will probably start a half an hour late because of whatever that other meeting is that everybody keeps going to. Uh, have a week full of amazing, and I don't know how to end the live stream, so I'm just going to have to stay here forever because YouTube changed everything. I know we're going to the beach, but beach, that's just because where the bar is. Um, there really is no end thing here. Maybe I'll try this. See if this works.